When Joe Rogan talks, the internet listens, but this time what he said lit a fuse that's still burning. Cue dramatic sting, fast cuts of Rogan clips, news anchors, and Charlie Kirk headlines. We're diving into how one podcast comment cracked open the most talked about mystery in conservative media: Charlie Kirk's widow, the whispers, and why the story refuses to die. Picture this: Joe Rogan sipping his usual black coffee halfway through a conversation about free speech, and then boom, he casually drops a sentence that makes every corner of the internet choke on its latte. Something about the Charlie Kirk situation just doesn't add up. That's it. 7 words. No rant, no screaming headline, just Rogan doing what Rogan does best, sounding like he's not trying to start a war while accidentally lighting one anyway. Within minutes, Reddit was on fire, X, formerly Twitter, went full detective mode, and YouTube's algorithm basically said, "Oh, you like chaos? Here's 20 more videos about it." Clips of that one comment got sliced, subtitled, and re-uploaded faster than a TikTok dance trend. And the irony? Rogan didn't even sound convinced of his own take. He sounded curious, dangerously curious. The kind of curiosity that breaks PR teams into cold sweats and makes celebrity spouses suddenly go, "No comments, please." Commentators jumped in instantly, some defending Erica Kirk like she was a saint, others accusing her like they'd personally seen the crime scene. It was the digital version of a neighborhood riot. Half the people screaming conspiracy, the other half screaming, "Bro, chill, it's just a podcast." But here's what made it explode. Rogan wasn't just any podcaster. He's the guy mainstream media both hates and needs. The one with 14 million listeners and a reputation for asking the questions polite journalists avoid. So when he even hinted that Charlie Kirk's death and his widow's story might not line up, that wasn't gossip anymore. That was an invitation to investigate. Suddenly, forums had timelines, TikTok had forensic experts, and Candace Owens, never one to stay silent, was trending before breakfast. People weren't just debating a rumor, they were dissecting a marriage, a movement, and a mystery. And all because Joe Rogan said what everyone else was too scared to say out loud. What if the story we were told is missing a chapter? Boom, instant viral moment. And just like that, the internet had a new obsession, and it had the perfect villains, heroes, and suspects to go with it. Rogan's mic drop was just the spark, because the real fire started when Candace Owens walked in holding receipts and a flamethrower. Enter Candace Owens, armed with receipts. Just when the internet was still catching its breath from Joe Rogan's "did he really just say that" moment, Candace Owens stormed in like the lead character entering halfway through a thriller, trench coat, laptop, and a look that says, "I've got screenshots." And boy did she. Candace didn't just tweet, she dropped a thread. And not a cute morning coffee thoughts thread. No, this was a digital manifesto. She claimed to have texts, group chats, and voice notes that the media conveniently ignored. You could practically hear every journalist in DC and Hollywood choke on their kombucha. Within hours, she posted a screenshot, a private group text that allegedly connected Erica Kirk, a Turning Point staffer, and someone who shouldn't have had access to internal documents. Boom. Cue the internet's collective gasp. Every political commentator suddenly turned into Sherlock Holmes. People zoomed in on fonts, timestamps, and battery percentages like they were CSI agents solving Watergate on an iPhone. Some said the texts were doctored. Others swore they matched Erica's known chat style. Yes, people actually analyzed her emoji usage. But here's the part that made this go nuclear. Candace didn't just imply something shady, she named names. She accused people in Charlie's circle of trying to silence her, hinting that Erica wasn't the grieving widow everyone thought, but the gatekeeper of secrets Charlie took to the grave. She accused people in Charlie's circle of trying to silence her, hinting that Erica wasn't the grieving widow everyone thought, but the gatekeeper of secrets Charlie took to the grave. She accused people in Charlie's circle of trying to silence her, hinting that Erica wasn't the grieving widow everyone thought, but the gatekeeper of secrets Charlie took to the grave. So here's where the whole internet lost its collective mind. The text thread. Not a tweet, not a rumor, an actual group chat that somehow made its way from private phones into the wilds of the internet like a scandal gift wrap for the algorithm. Picture this: a handful of Turning Point insiders chatting in what they thought was a safe little bubble, talking strategy, sympathy posts, and optics. But somewhere in that thread was one message, just one, that changed everything. It was short, vague, and dripping with implication. "We'll handle Erica's part quietly. Too many eyes already on it." Boom. 5 seconds later, the internet became a digital crime scene. Reddit detectives, TikTok investigators, and Twitter truthers went full CSI mode. Screenshots were zoomed, cropped, filtered, and dissected like they contained nuclear codes. Someone even made a flowchart connecting everyone mentioned in the thread to every political donor within a 100-mile radius. And when Candace Owens confirmed that she had been the one who leaked that text, oh, that was gasoline on a fire already burning out of control. She didn't deny it, she practically bragged about it. "I'm not leaking gossip," she said, "I'm leaking patterns." Translation: she was was implying that this wasn't a one-off. This was a system, and whether you agreed with her or not, it was hard not to feel that little rush of, wait, what if she's right? Meanwhile, Joe Rogan, who had already dipped his toe into the controversy, read the texted live on his podcast. That single moment, Joe reading it out loud with his trademark skeptical squint, froze the internet in place. You could practically hear millions of keyboards clicking in real time. People began to notice weird timing gaps, timestamps that didn't line up, deleted messages in the middle of the chat, and the infamous read at 3:14 a.m. that became the stuff of conspiracy legend. Why was Erica messaging senior Turning Point staffers at 3 in the morning, hours after Charlie's death, about media optics? Why did one staffer reply, "We'll control the statement before she speaks"? That was it. The narrative flipped from tragic loss to political thriller. It was no longer about who was grieving, it was about who was managing the grief. Within days, news outlets were fighting to verify the thread, while Erica's team tried to dismiss it as context taken out of proportion. But the damage was done. For the internet, context was irrelevant, because the screenshots looked too real, the wording too calculated. One commentator joked, "If you ever find yourself writing, we'll handle optics quietly. Congratulations, you've already lost the optics." And in classic internet fashion, memes exploded. One viral post showed Candace holding an iPhone with the caption, "When you say you'll handle it quietly," but she's already on live at 9 a.m. But beneath the chaos, there was a darker undertone. The thread hinted at control, secrecy, and spin, the kind of backroom PR management that turns tragedy into brand strategy. And if what Candace hinted was true, this wasn't just about one woman's alleged involvement. It was about power, manipulation, and the politics of silence, transition. But if the text thread was the spark, what came next was the explosion. Because once the receipts went public, everyone wanted to know who really pulled the strings behind Charlie Kirk's fall from grace. The footage the FBI won't show, all right. Buckle up, because this is the part where things get really uncomfortable. We're talking about the missing footage, the holy grail of this entire mystery, the video that the FBI supposedly has but refuses to release. And when an agency famous for surveillance suddenly gets camera shy, yeah, something's off. Now here's the wild part. Everyone knows the footage exists. Multiple witnesses, university staff, even security personnel confirmed that cameras were rolling that day from 3 different angles. But the official release? A few grainy stills that look like they were shot on a flip phone from 2006. No timestamps, no audio, no context, just vibes. Suspicious pixelated vibes. Candace Owens wasted zero time calling it out. She went live the next morning like a woman on a mission, saying, "We've seen every second of the January 6th tapes, but you expect us to believe this footage is too sensitive to release? Please." Cue the internet meltdown. Independent sleuths started matching shadows, comparing window reflections, and syncing crowd noises to timestamps like they were editing the Zapruder film. And what they found, or think they found, made the story even crazier. A second figure, not the shooter, someone next to the shooter, a blurry outline wearing what looks like a light-colored jacket, moving just seconds before the fatal shot. You can see the shape pass something, a small object, then vanish into the chaos. Now, when this mystery woman theory dropped, the FBI clammed up faster than a politician at a lie detector test. They said there was no credible evidence of an accomplice. But here's the kicker. Several witnesses claim to have heard 2 distinct sets of footsteps leaving the scene. And in one clip, one that mysteriously disappeared from social media within hours, you can actually hear someone off camera say, "She handed him something. Gone. Wiped. Erased faster than a celebrity's search history." Even Joe Rogan couldn't resist jumping in, joking on his show. Either the FBI's got the worst Wi-Fi in America, or they're hiding something big. Half joke, half truth, 100% viral. And of course, the internet did what it does best, spiraled. Some claimed the footage was pulled because it exposed federal involvement. Others believed it was being held as leverage in a political chess match, one that could implode entire organizations if revealed. One Reddit user summed it up perfectly. "If that video ever leaks, it'll make the Watergate tapes look like a TikTok prank." But here's where it gets even darker. An insider allegedly told a conservative journalist that the footage does exist, but it's been sealed under national security grounds. That's right, a college event turned into a classified situation. Why? Because apparently the video might show federal personnel in proximity to the event. Let that sink in. Not federal agents responding to the scene, in proximity. So now the internet's asking the obvious question, why is a local incident being treated like Area 51? What's so explosive in that footage that the public can't see it? Even after countless requests, FOIA filings, and public outrage. Candace Owens put it bluntly, when When the truth threatens power, power starts deleting evidence. And whether you love her or loathe her, that line hit hard. Because for every second that footage stays locked away, the theories grow wilder, and the trust grows weaker. But if the footage is the secret the FBI won't show, the next twist might just be the proof they couldn't bury. Because what leaked next flipped the entire narrative on its head. The mysterious woman. Alright, let's talk about her. Because every great mystery has that one character who shows up for half a second and suddenly becomes the center of everything. Like the background extra who accidentally walks into movie history. In this story, she's the ghost in the footage, the silhouette in the light jacket, the mysterious woman, and if you believe Candace Owens, she might just be the key to the whole puzzle. Let's rewind to that now infamous clip from the Utah Valley event. The shooter's position is fixed, the crowd screaming, chaos, but freeze the frame about 2.3 seconds before the shot, and there she is. A woman, slim build, light jacket, face half hidden by a baseball cap. She leans forward, her hand moves toward the suspect. Then, boom, she's gone. Like she evaporated into the panic. Now, here's the kicker. No one can agree on who she is. Not the FBI, not the witnesses, not even the internet's army of self-appointed CSI agents. Candace Owens went nuclear on X, formerly Twitter. There was a woman standing with the shooter moments before the incident, and somehow the FBI forgot to mention her? Interesting. And just like that, the hashtag #mysterywoman started trending faster than a Kardashian scandal. Reddit detectives, YouTube analysts, and TikTok truth seekers went into full Sherlock mode. Some slowed the video down frame by frame. Others claimed they enhanced the audio, hearing what sounded like a faint female voice saying, "Here, take it." What it was, no one knows. But whatever it was, that tiny phrase launched 1,000 theories. One user claimed she was part of Kirk's security team, but if that's true, why was she in a civilian jacket and not a uniform? Another said she was a journalist who just happened to be in the right place at the wrong time. And then there's the spiciest theory of all, that she wasn't random at all, she was helping. Candace doubled down in one of her live streams. "I've spoken to witnesses who heard 2 distinct sets of footsteps leaving the scene. You can't tell me that's coincidence. 2 people walked away that day. And honestly, the math checks out. 2 sets of prints were found on the rooftop, one matching the suspect's size, the other smaller, consistent with a woman's shoe. But for some reason, that second print never made it into the official report. Why? Not relevant. The Fed said, not relevant? That's like saying the extra spoon in your cutlery drawer doesn't exist, even though you keep hearing it clink. Even Joe Rogan jumped in on his podcast with that trademark smirk. So we've got a missing woman, missing footage, and an agency that suddenly can't find its files? Sounds like every bad Netflix documentary ever. But this one's real life. And that joke alone sent the story into orbit. Clips from Rogan's podcast racked up millions of views overnight, fanning the flames of suspicion. Everyone wanted to know, who is she? A decoy? A whistleblower? An insider who panicked? Or maybe the one person who knows exactly what went down that day? But here's where things get darker. According to one whistleblower inside the investigation, this woman was identified. They allegedly know her name, but her identity was sealed for safety reasons. Since when does a random witness get federal level protection? Unless she wasn't a random witness at all. Candace Owens put it best. Every time someone disappears, another truth gets buried. And that line hit like thunder across the internet, because the next day, users noticed something eerie. The original rooftop footage that showed her, deleted. Every reposted clip, flagged. Every mirror upload, shadow banned. You'd think she broke into Fort Knox, not walked across a roof. So now we're left with the big question. Was she helping the shooter escape, or helping someone else cover their tracks? Because in every great political scandal, there's always that one quiet figure in the corner, the one everyone overlooks. And if history's taught us anything, it's that the people who disappear from the story are often the ones who could have told it best. But if the mysterious woman was the ghost in the footage, then what happened next was the earthquake that followed. Because the next revelation didn't just raise questions, it shattered the whole story wide open. The hospital detour. When chaos erupted after Charlie Kirk was shot, his team made a baffling move. Instead of rushing him to the nearest trauma center just 7 minutes away, they drove past it to a smaller hospital nearly twice the distance, with no ambulance ever called. Candace Owens immediately called it out, accusing the team of prioritizing optics over oxygen, especially after reports revealed an 8-minute delay, a mysteriously included administrative aid in the SUV, and the abrupt resignation of the hospital's CEO just days later. Add to that 2 doctors being quietly quickly reassigned, and Joe Rogan's viral line, "They drove him past a trauma center and straight into a PR crisis," and the internet exploded. What should have looked like a rescue now looks like choreography, fueling theories that the so-called hospital detour wasn't a mistake at all, but a calculated move to control what the world saw and what it didn't. The Turning Point Tangle, the Turning Point USA chapter, flipped this story from tragedy to political thriller. After Charlie Kirk's death, rumors spread that what looked like grief behind the scenes might have actually been a power shift in disguise. Erica Kirk, once in the background, suddenly took control of Turning Point, meeting donors and steering the organization in a direction opposite to Charlie's recent choices. Meanwhile, leaked messages hinted that Charlie had rejected major funding deals shortly before everything fell apart. Deals that mysteriously resurfaced under Erica's leadership. Candace Owens, already suspicious, saw it as more than coincidence, calling it a quiet coup masked as a crisis. And with Joe Rogan fanning the flames on his podcast, the internet began asking if Charlie's death wasn't just the end of a movement, but the launch of someone else's empire. And every good play needs a plot twist. Enter the audit nobody saw coming. The audit that wouldn't die. The so-called audit that wouldn't die became the scandal that Turning Point USA couldn't bury no matter how hard it tried. What began as a routine financial review after Charlie Kirk's death quickly unraveled into a high-stakes mystery filled with missing funds, offshore accounts, and questionable transfers to ghost consulting firms. Insiders whispered about donor money that seemed to vanish overnight, wire transfers with suspicious timing, and records that conveniently tied back to the very donors Charlie had reportedly clashed with before his death. Each time auditors tried to wrap things up, new inconsistencies surfaced, suggesting a much deeper web of political maneuvering and financial manipulation than anyone expected. When Erica Kirk stepped in, instead of clearing the air, she allegedly tightened control, locking down files, sidelining staff, and pushing for internal handling. That only fueled more suspicion. Candace Owens went on a crusade, declaring the audit was the key to unraveling everything, from Charlie's conflicts to his mysterious final days, while Joe Rogan amplified the storm, hinting that powerful people had plenty to hide. The result? The audit transformed from an accounting exercise into a viral investigation that refused to fade, painting a picture of secrets, silenced insiders, and a political empire built on more than just ideology, perhaps on deception itself. Dangerous? Try downright chilling, because what surfaced next blurred the line between coincidence and cover-up. The Vanishing Investigator centers on one of the most suspicious turns in the Charlie Kirk saga, the sudden disappearance of investigator Shaner Barrick, who was deeply tied to both Phil Lyman, a Utah gubernatorial candidate, and Candace Owens' independent probe. Barrick initially emerged as a data analyst and on-the-ground researcher who compiled the earliest event maps and evidence trails shaping how the media first covered the case. But shortly after his name gained traction online, he vanished, deleting his LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram accounts almost overnight, locking down all his posts and cutting off contact with both journalists and associates. Owens took this as more than coincidence, calling it proof that people disappear when they fear the truth. What followed was an online firestorm. Some believed Barrick had been pressured into silence after uncovering sensitive details about the Kirk investigation, possibly exposing links between political donors, Turning Point USA, and suppressed evidence. Others argued he simply wanted to escape the chaos, but the deeper Owens and her supporters dug, the more irregularities they found. Phil Lyman abruptly redefined his relationship to Barrick, calling him a distant cousin instead of a nephew as previously reported, fueling speculation of deliberate distancing to avoid public scrutiny. For Owens, this shift symbolized a cover-up in real time. She pointed out how the erasure of Barrick's digital footprint coincided with key files in the investigation being sealed or edited, suggesting a coordinated effort to rewrite the narrative. Ultimately, the Vanishing Investigator became a metaphor for the entire case, a mystery where every new truth seemed to vanish just as quickly as it appeared. Barrick's disappearance wasn't just about one man. It represented the silencing of inconvenient evidence and the growing belief that those closest to uncovering the truth were being systematically removed from the picture. By now, the internet wasn't just watching, it was documenting. The quote that lit the match. Rogan closes the segment with a line that's now everywhere. Maybe the real story isn't who pulled the trigger, it's who wrote the script. Boom. Mic drop, internet meltdown. It all began with one line, a quote so simple yet so explosive, it reignited the entire internet debate around Charlie Kirk's mysterious death. During a memorial interview, his widow Erica Kirk calmly stated, "I've already forgiven the man who did this, because forgiveness is freedom." What was meant to sound spiritual came across as strategic, and almost instantly, her words went viral. Viewers didn't see a grieving wife seeking peace. They saw a woman too composed, too quick to forgive, and maybe too rehearsed. The timing was suspicious, the tone unsettling, and that single quote turned a solemn tribute into a storm of suspicion. Within hours, Joe Rogan discussed it on his podcast, calling the quote weirdly premature, while Candace Owens took it even further, saying Erica's statement didn't sound like forgiveness. It sounded like foreknowledge. Online investigators slowed the clip down frame by frame, analyzing her body language like a political thriller. A twitch here, a glance there, a blink that lasted too long. Commentators across YouTube, X, Twitter, and Reddit began debating whether Erica's forgiveness was genuine grace or carefully curated guilt. By the next morning, #ForgiveGate was trending worldwide. Candace Owens dropped a fiery response saying, "You forgive when justice is done, not while the truth's still being buried." That quote alone reignited the controversy, dividing audiences between empathy and suspicion. In less than 24 hours, Erica Kirk went from grieving widow to the center of a media hurricane. Her one sentence became the spark that turned whispers into wildfire. And as the dust settled, one question still burned across every comment section. Was it forgiveness, or was it a signal that the story was far from over? So what do you think? Is this another case of internet overanalysis, or is there really smoke behind Joe Rogan's spark? Drop your take below. We read every theory, no matter how wild. And if you love smart chaos with receipts, hit subscribe, because the next leak, it's already trending.